Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Triple N Media. I am Dr. NIK NIKAM. This is COVID-19 World News. The topic today is can someone get a COVID-19 infection after receiving the first dose of a COVID-19 vaccine? The answer is yes, and there could be many reasons. Let's explore some of these reasons and get a better understanding of how someone can get a COVID infection after receiving the first dose of COVID vaccine. What do you do after that? There could be many reasons as why someone can get a COVID infection after receiving the first dose of the vaccine. The vaccine might not have had time to build antibody levels. So you might have just received the vaccine a few days ago or a week ago or maybe less than 2 weeks ago, and the body had no time to build the antibodies, and in the meantime you might have gotten exposed to the virus. The second scenario, maybe you were already exposed to the virus, you were asymptomatic, you got the vaccine, and now the COVID manifests itself. You wonder, how did you get this COVID infection if you already had the vaccine for 2 weeks? We'll explore as why you could get it. The third reason may be various mutations of this COVID virus we hear about. There is the UK strain, which is supposed to be spreading quite rapidly, and there is the South African strain. It is not clear whether the existing vaccines do work on these strains, but the manufacturers of Moderna and Pfizer feel their vaccines can work against these UK and South African strains of the coronavirus. So let's explore now, how can you get a COVID infection if you already had the vaccine? First of all, vaccine takes time to build antibody levels. Number two, not all vaccines are 100% protective against COVID infection. Let's take a look at this. Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine offered 64.1% protection after the first standard dose. It reached 90% protection after someone received one half dose followed by one full dose. So this is their best result. Whereas Moderna vaccine could produce 80% protection after the first dose, then it went up to 95.6% a week after the second dose. Whereas Pfizer data shows that its vaccine was only 52% effective after the first dose. So depending upon what type of vaccine you receive, depending upon the time frame from when you receive this vaccine, you may be in a vulnerable period and you could develop COVID infection if you are exposed to the virus. And here's a reference to this beautiful article from bbc.com. You can take a look at that. Now let's look at how body responds to this vaccine. Whether it's a virus or a vaccine, the body responds by producing antibodies. It has the IgM, which is the immediate response antibody. It has the IgG, which is the long-term antibody. After exposure to the second dose, it also stimulates the T cells or the memory cells, which get a permanent imprint of this antigen or the virus particle or the spike protein structure. And then it fights against that whenever it is introduced. However, even that in the coronavirus may last only about a year at the max from the data that's available at this present time. So if you are in the period before the body begins to make adequate levels of antibodies, you're likely to get a COVID infection if you are exposed to the virus. The second scenario would be that you already had exposure to the virus. Your body was already fighting this virus, but you were asymptomatic. You go and get the vaccine, and 8 days, 10 days, 12 days later, you come with a full-blown picture of a COVID infection. So that is a scenario which is more common, and people wonder how did they end up getting the infection when they received the vaccine a week ago or 2 weeks ago. The third scenario is various mutations of this coronavirus, namely the UK strain and the African strain, and there may be an United States strain also. Okay, let's think about what if somebody is already having an infection with coronavirus? When are they eligible for the vaccine? According to the CDC, they have to wait for 10 days after they had the COVID infection and after the symptoms had subsided, and they should have no symptoms or fever for 24 hours after 10 days, then they would be eligible to get the vaccine. On the other hand, if they had received monoclonal antibodies, they may have to wait 90 days before they can get the vaccine. But what if they already had received the first dose of vaccine and then they get the infection? There are no clear guidelines as to when you get the second dose of this vaccine. The best thing would be to talk to your personal physician, and they can, depending upon your situation, decide when it would be appropriate for you to get the second dose of your vaccine. I hope this has been useful to you. Please take a look at my COVID-19 pandemic book on Amazon.com if you'd like to learn more about the COVID-19 pandemic. This has been a presentation of Triple N Media. This is a COVID-19 World News. I am Dr. NIK NIKAM. We'll see you next time.